Morning on my blue collar workers. I'm gonna get some light in here. I'm gonna get there we go. Morning on my blue collar workers, all my YouTubers, all my union members. So I just figured I'd make a little post. I'm at school today. All week I've been at school. So we did first day we had advanced systems. Yesterday we had welding. Today we have advanced rigging. And I don't remember what we got. I don't know what we got tomorrow. I gotta look at the schedule. But anyway, I'm here early at school as always. So I was just thinking about some things. So right now I'm going through a home refinance. So I figured I'd kind of talk about how I got to where I'm at, because I think it would be beneficial for people. I think a lot of times when you start actually making good money, like, you're not used to dealing with that money. So with me, I made more money doing other stuff, so whatever. But so when I got out of prison, I didn't have nothing. I didn't have no family to help me. I didn't have no friends that were trying to do nothing. Like, I was pretty much on my own. Didn't have no credit, never had a credit card before. I didn't have a job. Obviously, I had saved up some money from tattooing in prison, so I had enough to buy a vehicle because I knew I was going to need a vehicle. So I bought a vehicle down in Oklahoma and drove it up here when I got released from prison. So I had a vehicle. I had enough money to buy a little bit of clothes because I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have anything. Had enough money to pay for, I think I paid for 6 months of insurance in advance for my vehicle, so that I knew I was coming to the city. I knew I was going to need a vehicle if I was going to find a good job. And I had a little bit of welding experience. That's it. I took a 6-month welding program in prison. That's nothing like if you took a actual welding course on the streets. So that's what I got out with. Within 5 years' time, I got 4-bedroom house, Jaguar, Mercedes, and a good job. So obviously there's more stuff than that, but those are the basic things. So if you don't have a house, if you don't have these things, let me just explain to you how I came about doing it. So first off, you need to do something with your credit. Like, I didn't have any credit coming out of prison. I was 30-some years old, never had a credit card in my life. So I just kind of put a little bit of focus into looking into that. I had talked to some people about it, about how to go about it. So first step, I opened a bank account, got my bank account right. Then through them, I got offered a credit card. Now, it wasn't very much. I think it was like a $500 limit or something, because I didn't have no credit. They told me, like, no credit is bad credit. So I got that first credit card from my bank. I started using that for just small stuff, like paying for gas, buying stuff online, and then I would pay it off every month. So as far as a job, I got a job right away. I think it took me about a month and a half to find a job that felt like I was gonna be making decent money. So I started out at like $19 an hour, and then they bumped me up to $20 an hour. That was something I had negotiated with them. So that was the first step: get your credit going. So once I got that credit card and I started doing that, I was just using it for small purchases, using like 30-40%, and then I'd pay it off at the end of the month. Pretty soon I got offered another credit card, so I ended up getting another credit card, and I started accumulating a little bit of credit. Now, one of the things I didn't do, because I'm not very good at it, is I didn't start saving money. That would have probably been a good idea for me. Instead, once I started getting the paychecks, I would start buying stuff for my vehicle, I was just trying to make it something that I would like, I guess. It wasn't nothing that I should have been doing. I should have been just saving my money, but instead I started dumping a bunch of money in my vehicle. So I was in a halfway house because I didn't have no place to go when I got out. I didn't have no family to stay with, nothing like that. So I was in there for about 6 months. So I did save a little bit of money. I saved up enough to get a down payment, first month's rent on an apartment. So I did that for a while. Well, then by then I accumulated, I think I had like 2 or 3 credit cards. I started to build credit, so I started to get more and more credit. So then I get my apartment. I didn't really have too much money to buy all brand new stuff, so I think I had one guy I worked with, he gave me a couch, and I bought a bed on Facebook Marketplace, bought a TV on Facebook Marketplace. I was just buying whatever I needed. Like, really, it was just me in a 1-bedroom apartment, so I didn't really need a lot of stuff. So I ended up staying at that apartment for 2 years, and I was I mean, everything kind of it takes time. You can't just get everything and just go right away. You kind of got to build a paper trail of building. So during the same time, I was upgrading jobs. Like, I would be working one job, I'd be constantly looking on ZipRecruiter and the other little job sites and finding different jobs. So anything that paid more than what I was making, I would put in an application. And I figured, worst case scenario, I don't get hired. Best case scenario, I get an opportunity to make more money. So I just kept doing that, and through that process, I kept finding different jobs that would pay me more. So I'd upgrade jobs. So that brought my income up. Every time I would change jobs, my income would go up. Meanwhile, I'm just steady paying all my bills on time, paying off my credit cards on time. Never stopped using them. I was always using them for something, and then I just try to pay them off. I tried not to carry a balance. So I ended up jumping on my credit. So by the time I ended up getting my house, my Jaguar, I think my credit score was like 720. And I think I had like 5 credit cards at the time. And so I was just thinking, like, things were kind of, my neighborhood wasn't getting any better. They had some stuff was going on, some riots and stuff up here, and it shut down a lot of businesses and gas stations. Like, I couldn't even get gas from my house. It burned down all the gas stations around my house, or around my apartment. And I had no garage, so I was like, man, I need to find a house. So I don't know what I was doing. I think I was on Zillow just kind of looking at houses. I didn't know where to start. I'd never done it before. I didn't have nobody to kind of educate me and give me a lesson on how to go about it, the first steps or anything. So I was on Zillow looking, and I seen an ad on there for a mortgage broker, and he had commented on there saying he had good reviews. He commented on there saying that he was willing to answer questions if you had any questions. So one morning I was getting breakfast. I was looking at that. I was at Hardee's over in St. Paul. I went through the drive-thru, and I was sitting there eating. I was looking at it, so I was like, man, let me just call this guy one time and see if he can answer the questions. Like, just see where I'm even supposed to start. Like, how do I even find out how to do this? So I ended up calling that mortgage broker, talking to him, and he said that actually what I had did was the first step. Like, you call a mortgage broker. Okay, so then he went through and ran the numbers, and he got me pre-approved. And he was like, well, how much do you want? I think at the time I was making like around $55,000 a year. That was what I was getting on my tax returns. It was $55,000 a year is what I was making. So he was willing to give me way more than what I was trying to get. I was kind of being conservative because I didn't know anything about it. So I was jumping into something I didn't know. I didn't want to get over my head. So I figured $180,000, that sounded like a lot of money to me. And it really wasn't that much. Like, a lot of houses up here are $250,000, $350,000. So that seemed like more, like I wanted to keep a mortgage payment that I knew I could pay. Didn't not want to stress about, because I knew there was probably going to be other expenses. So what they wanted me to have the down payment amount in Minnesota, or maybe it's nationwide, I'm not sure. They have a first-time home buyers loan I had heard about, where they give you a grant to cover your down payment or closing costs. But in order to do that, they also want you to have that amount of money in your bank, just to show that you're going to be able to pay it. So I had to have $7,000 in my savings, so I just started putting money away, and then I got pre-approved. So then once you get pre-approved, you can go look at houses. They hooked me up with a realtor. Honestly, they did most of the work. I didn't really have to do too much. I went and looked at a few houses and finally found the one that at the time the housing market was hot. I got lucky that it was low interest rates and the housing market was hot, so houses were going left and right. There was a house I was gonna go look at. It was super nice, and man, it was gone before I could even set up a time to go look at it. So when I found my house, I just right away put in an offer. I tried to put in an offer lower than what they asked, but they turned it down right away. So I was like, well, I'll pay the offer, or I'll pay what you're asking if you cover closing costs. They end up going with that. So that's how I got that. Meanwhile, my credit score was high, so at the time I had 2 vehicles. They were both older. I had never bought a car from a dealership. I was always just saving up money and buying cars cash. So I had a Lexus, and I had it was an older Lexus. It was like a 2008 Lexus. And I had an older 2008 Range Rover I had bought for a winter vehicle. They both had high miles on them. So I ended up selling the Lexus when I bought the house. And then that when I actually closed on the house, that released the money in my savings. So I had that I think it was $7,000 is what I had in my savings for the down payment. And once that got released, I used that to go buy furniture, buy all that stuff. And I sold the Lexus. Then I started having issues with the Range Rover. So I was like, man, let me see if I can get a new car. So I ended up taking the Range Rover to the Range Rover dealership, and I seen a Jaguar I liked there. I ended up getting pre-approved and getting that, and had the payments for that. So kind of the build up for it is kind of just building yourself a base. So I had to build some kind of work experience, job experience. I had to build that I had an apartment, that I had been paying my rent on time and stuff. So it's kind of just like step by step building a foundation is what's going to put you in a better spot. And then always trying to increase the amount of income you're making by finding a job. Well, now obviously I'm in the pipe fitter, so I'm making more money, and it's still a struggle trying to figure out finances and stuff, but I feel like I'm still living better than average. But that was how it worked, man. 5 years is all it took me. I came out with nothing. So I mean, for the average person that already has a little bit of a start on life, if you're still living in an apartment, I mean, you probably already have a head start on where I was to accomplish some of these things. A lot of it just comes down to income. So finding a job that's going to pay you more money. And that's where the trades really do come in, because you're going to make more money. You're going to have a lot of your benefits and stuff like that. And then it's just a matter of trying to effectively manage your money, I guess, and try not to get too far over your head. Like, that was one of the mistakes I made, is I got crazy with the debt. Like, once I bought the house in the Jag, I'm like, I don't need credit no more. I got everything I need. But then things start popping up. Like, first year I had my house, the furnace went out. That ended up being like 11 grand. I ended up getting a new furnace and a new hot water heater. Now, mind you, when you own a house, anything you put into it, like, that's an investment. So that brings up your property value. So when I bought my house, I bought it for $178,000. Right now I'm going through refinance. It's worth, like, they haven't done a estimate of it yet, but the value of it right now is $240,000. I've been living there 3 years now, and it'll probably come in more. I just put new windows in. I put a new furnace in. So I mean, that increases your property value. So it's kind of like owning a house. If you look at it, it's kind of like an investment. And that was what I was going for, was like, first house is going to be a starter house. That's not the house I'm going to live in for the rest of my life. Probably the next house is going to be the house I live in for the rest of my life. But we'll see how that goes next year. That's probably when I'm going to try to see if I can upgrade. So that's kind of my journey, my walkthrough. And, you know, it's kind of one of them things. Like, if I did it, anybody can do it. I started with nothing. And 5 years later, like, yeah, I got debt, I got some bills, but I got everything. I got mostly everything I want. Like, there's still some things I'm trying to go for. I want a bigger house. Still want the motorcycle. I'll probably end up get rid of the Jaguar, get a newer car, maybe just one newer car. But most of that is like, all that's wants. That's not needs. A house is definitely something that I feel like you're gonna need. Like, you don't want to just be paying rent to somebody else forever. Maybe some people do. I don't know. For me, it was a good plan to get a house. So it's doable, man. So I hope everybody out there is having a good day, and hopefully something I said, some kind of words of wisdom for you. But you can definitely do it. 5 years is what it took me. If you already got a little bit of a head start, man, what you waiting for?